Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. I'm Latifah Griffin, one of your resident seminarians, and also your worship associate today. And I'm here to welcome you. If you are an immigrant, a refugee, undocumented, you are welcomed here. If you are Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, atheist, or theist, you are welcomed here. Whatever nation you call home, whatever faith is your own, you are welcomed here. If you are gay, straight, bi, if you're a woman, a man, transgender, queer, or questioning, you are welcomed here. If you have a disability, visible or invisible, you are welcomed here. If you want for nothing, or if you struggle each day to make it through, you are welcomed here. If you are heartbroken, if you are angry, if you are afraid, if you feel strong and powerful, and if you are ready, you are welcomed here. If you hold a place of a dream and peace alive in your heart, you are welcomed here. Whoever you are, you, your whole family, all that you are, all that you carry, you are welcomed here. For this is a community of diversity and inclusion, a community of love and justice, and it is good to be together. So welcome this morning. Today, we welcome back to our pulpit Reverend Andrew Weber. Reverend Andrew is a proud, lifelong Unitarian Universalist, currently living in Newark, Delaware, with his wife and 2 small children. Reverend Andrew is the travel program director with the Unitarian Universalist Partner Church Council and believes strongly in incorporating spirituality and faith, identity, and travel experiences. With the current restrictions on travel and changes in all of our lives, Reverend Andrew is mainly a stay-at-home parent, striving to continue to live a faithful and grounded life for himself, his family, and the world. Thank you, Reverend Andrew, for joining us once again. And now let us move into announcements. Our first announcement, if you would like to have access to all of the news announcements, please subscribe at firstuuwilm.org to have access, to find the link to have access to our announcements. The second announcement is that the church board is hosting a virtual coffee chat after this service this morning at 11:30. Also, the results from the music survey will be announced at the chat. And so the link for the chat will be included in this Friday's bulletin newsletter that you'll receive via email. And any other announcements that you would like to find, you can find on firstuuwilm.org. Now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is a great covenant. This is a great covenant. Seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Love is the Spirit. Love is the Spirit. Love is the spirit of this church. This church.
We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest. who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome who enter this virtual hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family, whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. Good morning and welcome to this holy place. Welcome to your holy place. I am Reverend Andrew Weber, and I'm honored to be worshiping with you today. Please join me now and join with Unitarian Universalists all across the globe as we light our chalice, the symbol of our free faith. I'll be lighting the chalice here in the sanctuary as Latifah Griffin leads us.
Good morning. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to join me by lighting it. Today, as we light our chalice, we light this chalice to celebrate the inherent worth and dignity of all people. Amen.
Please join me in affirming the mission of this church. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action. Our time for all ages today is a story I've adapted from The Friendly Forest by Rabbi Edwin Friedman. And let's see. Let's start the first slide there. There we are. Once upon a time, there was a forest full of animals. The forest was filled with deer, mice, turkeys, porcupines, fish in a stream, rabbits, eagles, and many other animals. What other animals do you think would have been in the woods? Oh, not yet. There's even a lamb in the forest. Can we go back? Seems like my slides are going. Yeah, hold it right there. Thank you. There was even a lamb in the forest who loved to graze in meadows and frolic about. But this wasn't just any forest. This was the friendly forest. The friendly forest was a place where each animal was able to be themselves without worrying about harm from any other animal. The deer, the mice, the turkeys, the porcupine, the fish in the stream, the rabbits, the eagles, and lambs all made agreements on how they were going to live together. There was even a big meeting when everyone in the forest came together and they came up with a covenant or some guidelines or rules about how to act, about being nice to one another. It's the sort of guidelines that youth groups come up with to guide their actions, or adults in committees or small group ministry. A way to help them remember how to be with one another. What would be some guidelines that you might come up with? Well, the animals had this great big piece of paper with their agreement on it, and life was grand. The fish agreed to respect the deer. The snakes agreed not to eat the porcupines, which was a good idea for everyone involved. The owls agreed not to be loud at night so the lamb could sleep. Lo and behold, one day, a tiger came to the forest and asked to live among them. A tiger came to the forest and asked to live among the other animals. The animals were delighted, for they had no tigers in the forest. But the lamb was a little scared, which, being a lamb, was understandable. The lamb, somewhat sheepishly, expressed its concerns to some friends. But they said, "Don't worry, we will talk to the tiger and explain that one of the conditions for living in this forest is that you must also let the other animals live in the forest. We will show the tiger our covenant." Do you have covenants or guidelines that you have in your families or your classrooms or places of work or elsewhere? Are there places that you have a covenant? What about on the playground or at home or at church? Guidelines which are spoken or written, or maybe ones that are unspoken but understood implicitly. Maybe you don't answer the phone when you're eating a meal together, and no hitting during playtime or any time. Treat each other with respect and compassion. Can you think of other examples, maybe? So the animals explained to the tiger how things worked in their community, and that was indeed a friendly forest. Just as you may do when someone new joins you in a game, you explain the rules you're playing by. The lamb, who had been concerned about the tiger, went things as usual, but it was not long before the tiger began to growl and make threatening gestures and menacing motions. Each time, the frightened lamb went to its friends and said, "It is very uncomfortable for me here in the forest." But the lamb's friends were reassuring, "Don't worry, that's just how the tiger behaves. Maybe you are being too sensitive." Now the tiger did not spend all or even most of her time around the lamb, but still the lamb found it increasingly difficult not to always be thinking of the tiger and her growling and snarling. This made the lamb very upset. But the lamb remembered the advice of its friends and tried to put up with the tiger. Eventually, it got to be too much, and the lamb was really not feeling welcome or safe in the friendly forest. To the lamb, it no longer felt like a friendly forest, after all. The tiger was not living into their covenant of love and respect. Now, this brings up the question, what happens if someone breaks our agreement, someone doesn't uphold our covenant? We might say, if someone breaks the covenant, we stop what we are doing, and we review those guidelines. We talk again about what the covenant is and why we have it. Have you had a time when an agreement felt broken? So the lamb again went to its friends and said, "This truly has gone on too far. I don't think I can stay in the forest when I'm feeling threatened by this tiger." The deer, who was a good friend of the lamb, and the tiger agreed to have a meeting where the tiger and the lamb could discuss what was happening. So the deer and the lamb and the tiger got together, and they lit their chalice, and they talked about their feelings. The lamb expressed that their agreement of safety and kindness was not being followed. And the tiger agreed to try again to live into the spirit of the friendly forest. The lamb was hopeful about coming together again and bringing back actions to the covenant. Even though at first it was difficult, the lamb was happy to have reached out to friends and to the deer. After the deer and the lamb had talked with the tiger, things got a little bit better. The growling and threatening stares lessened for the time being, but they did not go away. Quite soon, the lamb began to feel uncomfortable and unsafe again. So what was the lamb to do? The lamb was distraught. After all, this was the friendly forest, a community built on respect and love and compassion, where everyone should be able to feel safe and at home. The lamb thought about leaving the forest, possibly finding a wooded area to dwell in. The lamb didn't want to be mean to the tiger, who also had been accepted into the friendly forest. Well, the lamb was wise and had some very good friends. So the lamb again talked to the deer. But this time the tiger was unwilling to make any changes. The tiger didn't even want to talk about her growling and how it might be hurtful or scary to other members of the forest. She didn't want to talk about the promise of forgiveness and coming together in love. And the tiger didn't want to change its behavior to help sustain the friendly forest. So this is a tough one. How is the forest open and welcoming, but still safe to all? Do the animals ask the lamb to leave? Do the animals ask the tiger to leave? Do they do something else? What do you think should happen? What would you have done if you were in the friendly forest? And end our story with those questions to think about. What would you have done? What is the right, what is the loving thing to do here? So please join me now for a prayer and then a shared meditative silence. From arrogance, pompousness, and thinking ourselves more important than we are, may some saving sense of humor liberate us. For allowing ourselves to ridicule the faith of others, may we be forgiven. For making war and calling it justice, indifference and calling it tolerance, pollution and calling it progress, may we be cured. For telling ourselves and others that evil is inevitable while good is impossible, may we stand corrected. God of our mixed up, tragic, aspiring, doubting, and insurgent lives, help us to be as good in our hearts as we have always wanted to be. Amen. Part of our worshiping together is sharing from deep within, that our sorrows might be lessened and our joys increased. You will be invited to call into this holy space, to call into your holy space, a name or names of those you are holding in your thoughts this morning. It can be for prayers, for thoughts, for support, for joy, for happiness. Spirit of community, in which we share and find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts to one another, seeking to bring into our circle of concern all who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who are in pain, either in body or in spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. Please share names of those in your thoughts. We are part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to remember, to love, to care. Please join me in a time of musical meditation where we reflect on those who have been called into this special time.
Be lords unto yourselves, be your confidence, hold to the truth within yourselves, as to the only Lamb.
And it just so happens today that we are sharing two stories from the same book. The story I shared earlier was an adaptation from The Friendly Forest, and this next one is adapted from The Bridge. Both of these come from Rabbi Edwin Friedman's book, Friedman's Fables, an inspired and challenging collection of engaging stories. And now, an adaptation of The Bridge. There once was a man who had given much thought to what he wanted from life. And this man had just begun to see clearly where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do. Diligently, he searched for the right opportunity, and last it came. But the opportunity could not wait. It would be made available only for a short period of time. And if it were seen that he were not committed, the opportunity would not come again. So eager to arrive at this place he needed to go, he started on his journey, and with each step, he wanted to move faster. With each thought about his goal, his heart beat quicker. With each vision of what lay ahead, he found renewed vigor. Hurrying along, he came across a bridge that crossed through the middle of a town. It had been built high above a river in order to protect it from the floods of spring, and he started across this bridge. And then he noticed someone coming from the opposite direction. And as they moved closer, it seemed as though the other was coming to meet him, a stranger. And when they were within hailing distance, he could see that the other person had a rope around their waist. It was wrapped around him many times, and probably if extended would be about 30 feet. It was a long rope. The stranger, began to uncurl the rope, and just as they were coming close, the stranger said, "Pardon me, would you be so kind as to hold this end for a moment?" Well, surprised by the politely phrased but curious request, the man agreed without a thought, reached out and took the end of the rope. "Thank you," said the other, who then added, "2 hands now, and remember, hold tight." Whereupon the stranger jumped off the bridge. Quickly, the free-falling body hurdled the distance of the rope's length, and from the bridge, the man abruptly felt the pull. Instinctively, he held tight, and he was almost dragged over the side. He managed to brace himself against the edge, and after having caught his breath, he looked down at the other person dangling close to oblivion. "What are you trying to do?" he yelled. "Just hold tight," came the response. This is ridiculous, the man thought, and began trying to haul the other one in. But he could not get the leverage. He could only balance the weight. "Why did you do this?" the man called. The stranger responded, "If you let go, I will be lost. But I cannot pull you up. I am your responsibility," said the other man. The man began to look around for help, but there was no one. How long would he have to wait? Why did this happen to befall him now, just as he was on the verge of success? He examined the side, searching for a place to tie the rope, some protrusion perhaps, or maybe a hole in the boards. But the railing was unusually uniform. There was no spaces between the boards, and there was no way to get rid of this newfound burden, even temporarily. "What do you want?" he asked the other, hanging down below. "Just your help," came the response. "Well, how can I help? I cannot pull you in, and there is no place to tie the rope, and I can't find someone else to help me pull you in." "I know, just hang on. That'll be enough. Tie the rope around your waist if you need. That will be easier." Fearing that his arms could not hold out much longer, the man did tie the rope around his waist. "Why did you do this? Don't you see what you've done? What possible purpose could you have in mind?" "Just remember," the other said, "my life is in your hands." What should he do? If I let go all my life, I will know that I let this other die. If I stay, I risk losing my momentum toward my own long sought-after salvation. Either way, the outcome will haunt me forever. As time went by, still no one came. The critical moment of decision was drawing near. To show his commitment to his goals, he would have to continue on his journey now. It was already almost too late to arrive in time, but what a terrible choice to have to make. A new thought occurred to him. While he could not pull this other up solely by his own efforts, if the other would shorten the rope of his end by curling it around his waist again and again and again, together they could get him up. Actually, the other could do it by himself so long as he, standing on the bridge, just kept it still and steady. "Now listen," he shouts down, "I think I know how to save you." And he explained the plan. But the other wasn't interested. "You mean you won't help? I told you I cannot pull you up by myself, and I don't think I can hang on much longer either." "You must try," shouted back the other, almost in tears. "If you fail, I die." The point of decision arrived. What should he do? My life or the other's? And then a new idea. A revelation so new, in fact, it seemed heretical. So alien was it to him and to his traditional way of thinking. What do you think happened? What should the man have done? What would you have done? What is the most loving action that can be taken there? What is the most loving response? Is it easy? Is it hard? Now, the reason we get to hear two of Rabbi Friedman's fables is that they're all such accessible examples of the difficult love of covenant, the difficult love of accountability. The Friendly Forest seems explicitly about our faith as Unitarian Universalists. We are a covenantal faith. You heard it in our prelude, maybe. We talked about the covenant of love. Rather than saying that you must believe a certain creed to be part of this faith, we don't ask that. We ask that you agree to a way of personal interactions. Unitarian Universalists make a covenant with each other, a promise about how we are going to act in community. We're able to join together in a vast variety of belief because we agree on how we will act with one another. We do not have a test of faith for members of our community. Instead, we join together with a covenant of action, a covenant of right relations. Being a part of this friendly forest does not require acceptance of a creed or a doctrine. You don't have to believe in a God. You don't have to agree not to mention God. And that is great. We don't want a creedal test or a statement of faith to which people must adhere. But that leaves open the question, what does entering in this community as a member or a visitor, what does entering into this community require of someone? It requires entering into a promise of relationship. a promise that we will be supportive and respectful of each other, even and especially when we differ. Our covenant is that we value ourselves, we value our differences, and we value each other. We come together not because of shared beliefs, but because of shared agreements of action. We are together here virtually because we agree on something. We agree that we are going to play nice with each other, that we are bound by this promise to one another. By Hosea Ballou, if we agree on love, there is no disagreement that can do us any injury. But here's where it gets dicey. What do we do as individuals or as a community when our covenant is broken? Because we all make mistakes, and others will make mistakes. There are times when we break our implicit or explicit agreements with one another. There's a saying in some Unitarian Universalist circles, especially youth, of oops and ouch. It's a cute way of saying what you do when promises are broken. The idea is that when you are hurt by something, you say, ouch. And when someone says you hurt them, you say, oops. We don't always know when we hurt people, and they don't always know that they hurt us. So we have to say, ouch and oops. Of course, this is a cute way. It goes much deeper than this phrase. We must express what was that we feel hurt by. The other side, we need to really understand what we can do to ensure we are not hurting. The oops and ouch mentality is the simply put form of what to do. If you feel uncomfortable, say something. Say something either to that person or, as with the lamb, to someone else. When you feel uncomfortable, when you feel unsafe, tell a parent, tell a friend, tell a minister. I'm talking to all of us here in our personal lives and especially in this beloved community. When something doesn't feel right, reach out to somebody. Reach out to someone in the hope that there can be a chance for reconciliation and coming back together into covenant. At a previous congregation I served, there was a man named Bill. Bill had been a very long-time friend, around for many years and always willing to help out. He did odd jobs around the building and grounds, always there when needed. But he was also always there when not needed, showing up in youth-only areas, saying things inappropriate or offensive to others, especially women. When I arrived, the previous minister mentioned him and told me that, oh, that's just Bill being Bill. That saying right there, when he said that, a flag went up in my head. I was like, oh, that's something I need to watch. So I kept my eyes open. I kept watching for what was happening once I arrived, and I got the same answer from congregants. Bill is a great guy. He repairs our plumbing, he paints the walls, he fixes broken chairs, and sometimes he can be a little rough, but that's just the way he is. So I sat down with Bill, and we talked about what it meant to be in community and how we act with one another. Everything seemed fine, but over the next couple years, there were numerous complaints about his actions, an off-color joke, an uncomfortable look or word, unwelcome touching or rude comments. Each time I received a complaint, I took Bill aside with the person who made the complaint when they were comfortable being there, and we talked about what had happened. And we worked through more respectful ways of acting. Bill continually responded that that's just how he was, and that we, as Unitarian Universalists, were supposed to accept everybody. After 3 instances, I involved the congregation's lay leadership in the process. The lay leadership came to the conclusion that Bill was able to stay in our community, but only if certain criteria were met. There wouldn't be a public announcement to the congregation, but Bill would have to conform to what the congregation had in place for just this instance. In case of a broken covenant, the congregation had a generic limited access agreement, which they personalized depending on the specific need. The specific conditions are confidential, but some of the limitations could include, depending on the situation, always having an adult lay leader accompany a person around, no contact with children, not asking members for monetary assistance, attend therapy, other limitations. Now, Bill, like the tiger, was either unable or unwilling to agree to the restrictions requested, so he was asked to leave the community. Now, it's not easy to do this work, but that is where faith holds us accountable and pushes us to hold others accountable. Our faith compels us to do the hard work that when we mess up, because we will mess up, that we come back together and we try to act again in love. Our faith compels us to do the hard work when someone else messes up, because they will mess up, that we come back together and try to act in love. We maintain clear and open communication, even with those with whom we have differences. We come back again and again to our promise of a friendly forest, to our promise of a beloved community. Sitting down with Bill and the person or persons who had made complaints was extremely hard, but it had to be done. Offering Bill a way forward in community was not a path everyone wanted to take, but it had to be done. That is the hard work of covenant. That is the loving work of accountability. This is one of the hardest parts of creating and sustaining a beloved community. What do we do? What do we do when our covenant is broken and there is no place for reconciliation? There's no easy answer for this. This is not an easy task. Back in July 2014, a group of anti-abortion activists interrupted a church service in New Orleans. During the service, they stood up and started verbally assaulting the congregation. So the minister asked them to leave. And the protesters challenged the minister and the community. But you said all are welcome here. You said all are welcome. This was a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And the minister replied, you are welcome here if you can worship with us respectfully. If you cannot be respectful, you are respectfully invited outside the threshold of this sanctuary. And that is where we walk the line. As individuals and as a community, accountability without care is punitive. Care without accountability is at best permissive and at worst enabling. This community is one based on love and inclusivity. But we are not welcoming to all people. And that can be a very hard thing for a Unitarian Universalist to hear or to say. We are not welcoming to all people. We are welcoming to those who are willing to live into our covenant of right relations, and that excludes some. That is okay. We keep coming back to our actions, and if through our discussions one party is not willing to forgive ourselves and each other, to begin again in love, then we may have to part ways. So should the tiger be asked to leave the forest? Should Bill have been asked to leave? This is walking the fine line of being radically open and inclusive and loving on one side, and being a beloved and safe community on the other. Accountability without care is permissive. It's punitive. Accountability without care is punitive. Care without accountability is at best permissive and worst enabling. Which brings me to the story of the bridge. This is a different, and albeit a little bit more personal, take on the accountability and loving compassion. The stranger, the other who gives the main character an end of the rope and jumps off the bridge. What is his intention? What is he thinking? His stated intention is that he needs help. And it is true that his life is now in the hands of the other, of the main character. Imagine standing there, holding the end of the rope with someone dangling over the edge, hanging over a precipice. Have you ever been handed a rope and then someone jumped? People in the midst of addiction will do this. Put all their agency with a relative or a friend, forcing the friend or relative to take care of them, to look out for them. Young children do this. young children and emotionally immature adults constantly. Blaming others for and expecting others to fix their missteps and fix their errors. Constantly running in to fix everything is holding on to that rope. Being so enmeshed with another's problems that you can't live your own life is holding on to the rope. The odd thing is that sometimes it feels good to hold on to that rope. Having someone's life in our hands, that means that we are important, that we can help. We are the only person that can make a difference. But be careful, we are helping. We are actually bringing the person out of danger. Are we? Are we bringing them out of danger, or are we enabling them to stay in harm's way? The opposite question is also valid. Have you ever handed someone the rope and then jumped yourself? Saying, "You make me so angry when," or "You drive me crazy," or "I need a drink when," and even more subtle, "You're my only hope," is handing over a rope and jumping. When we say those phrases, what we are doing is giving away agency of our own actions, rather than thinking or saying, "I feel angry when," or "I feel like drinking when," or "I need help." And it's up to the person we are talking to, whether or not they accept the rope, whether or not they internalize, "Oh yes, I need to change so I don't hurt them," or "I need to alter my actions so I don't, to save them." Now, it seems obvious to me that the two stories I shared can seem to be at odds. For in the first instance, we are asking someone, Bill or the tiger, to change so that they don't hurt someone. The difference, because in the second, we're asking the person not to change, else they will hurt someone. The difference is where the accountability is coming from, where that love is coming from, which is why it is so important to be in relationship, so important to be in community. With the tiger or with Bill, the community is reaching out with loving accountability, striving to have a new member of the community, but upholding standards of safety and kindness. The reaction is saying, "Yes, you may stay, but there must be changes, and we will help you." On the bridge, the person approached has the option to react with loving accountability. That person has the option of saying, "I will help you, but you have to help yourself too." The charge for us, the charge for all of us is to do that difficult, do that faithful work. The charge is to reach out when we need accountability, not trying someone to save us, but asking for assistance. A dear friend, a family member, a colleague, a minister, a therapist. These are relationships we can ask for accountability. Not save me, but help me. "Hey, I'm having a hard time. Can you help me see what I need to do next? I jumped off a bridge. Can you help me get back on? What work do I need to do? Where can I learn? Where can I grow?" Those are much harder questions to ask than "save me, do the work for me." For when I ask for help, I still need to do some personal work and personal growth. It's not up to someone else to save me, but they can help. Again, accountability without care is punitive. Care without accountability is at best permissive and at worst enabling. And the charge for us is to be loving to others with accountability. When a tiger comes among our midst, we don't just let them be. We don't just say that's the tiger being the tiger, but we hold them accountable with an opening for assistance. When someone tries to hand us their rope, we decline, or we know what we are getting into. This takes courage. It takes love, and it takes love, and it takes trust. And as an example, I want to look at President Trump and Fox News. Yeah, you heard me right. Last Sunday, Chris Wallace interviewed President Trump and did exactly what I'm talking about. He held Trump accountable and called him out. It's an amazing interview, absolutely amazing. In it, Wallace fact-checks Trump's statements in real time, and he doesn't let him get away with equivocation or outright untruth. When Trump says that the United States has one of the best COVID-19 numbers, that our rates are very low, Wallace brought out data which showed we are in fact not doing well. We do not have good numbers. Now, the reason that this is my last example is that in order to hold someone accountable, there must be trust. President Trump would not have reacted well had those very same questions been asked by someone from CNN or MSNBC. There's no trust there. There's a layer of trust that Fox News and Chris Wallace have built up with Trump, so that he was willing to be part of the very public practice of accountability. There has to be trust, or else trying to hold someone accountable comes off as judgmental, without love and without care. From an outside standpoint, it can be hard to see the trust. It can be hard to see the love. And from inside, the love can feel painful. It can feel difficult. And that's where we need to go. We need to go to that place of trust, to that place of love, which doesn't always look nice, which doesn't always feel comfortable, but which will help us grow into better human beings. I end with the final paragraph of the bridge as written, where the man on the bridge decides what to do. You may decide for yourself whether the stranger should have trusted him or whether he should not have trusted him. And you may decide for yourself whether the reaction was loving, caring, mean, or something else. I want you to listen to me carefully, he said, because I mean what I'm about to say. I will not accept the position of choice for your life, only for my own. The position of choice for your own life I hereby give back to you. What do you mean? The other man asked, afraid. I mean simply, it is up to you. You decide which way this ends. I will become the counterweight. You do the pulling and bring yourself up. I will even tug a little from here. He began unwinding the rope from around his waist and braced himself anew against the side. You cannot mean what you say, the other shrieked. You would not be so selfish. I am your responsibility. What could be so important that you would let someone die? Do not do this to me. He waited a moment. There was no change in the tension of the rope. I accept your choice, he said at last, and freed his hands. Amen.
Tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul, in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. In my soul.
It is now time for our stewardship moment. As I think about stewardship, I think of a few things: responsibility, resources, and community. Community being one of the most important aspects of stewardship, collective community. To be a good steward means to take care of another. I find that in this congregation, we do well at taking care of each other as our collective resources. As you meditate and ponder upon what this congregation and stewardship means to you, I would encourage you to take a virtual look around. Look at your virtual neighbors. This is true stewardship. This community wouldn't exist without you, each of you. I give to this church because I believe in its mission and its vision. I believe in the community that exists beyond these walls. So, take a moment to reflect on why you chose to log in today and why you choose to give to this church. There are 3 ways to provide a gift to our church, which are listed on the screen to the right of me. So, please take note, and thank you. Now we have reached the point in our service where it is time for our offertory. Please join me in dedicating our offerings by reciting the pledge. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these, our offerings. Amen.
from the Reverend Bob Doss. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, may a way be found, and the courage to take it step by step. Amen, and blessed be.
Shining and beautiful, filled with the wonder of nature's glory, where we share in the bounty of love all around, finding joy in the living of one common story, one in the freedom of the promise, one in the promise that brings us hope, one in the hope for a bright future. We lift our voices in unity. One world, the nations divided, fearful of all that can keep us apart. Though the promise of love is our blessing and hope, bringing people together and opening hearts. One in the freedom of the promise, one in the promise that brings us hope, one in the hope for our bright future. We lift our voices in unity.